Okay, hi everybody. It's me, your friendly redhead JR. Question time. This question comes from a 25-year-old female. She says, how does pornography affect women of my generation when the men they are interested in dating or are dating are exposed with pornography? Pornography will affect everyone, but particularly as women who are going to date or are dating men who are into pornography, there's obviously going to be an intimate or an intimacy disconnection. The one thing I want women to focus on is that if a man or a boyfriend or somebody they're dating is using pornography and they find that out, that you don't make it your worth. In other words, you don't let that take away from the wonderful person and woman of God that you are, which is easily done because if you know your boyfriend or somebody that you're attracted to is seeking out that type of situation, you would easily gravitate to thinking that something might be wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with you. Again, we have to understand that if you're dating, it's okay to ask the man or the gentleman that you are dating if you're into porn. And I suggest to every woman that is dating, every young woman that's dating, that they have that conversation. First date, or even second date for that matter, wherever you're comfortable. But those questions you need to. So at the end of the day, if you feel your worth is being tapped or punched because somebody you're dating or a boyfriend is into it, I can understand that, so that's how it does affect you. But you have to remember, pornography is not your worth, and what that guy is doing or not doing should not matter to you as long as your hope is in Christ. So I encourage you all to have that conversation with whoever you're dating. This next question I get asked all the time, and it's how do we as women deal with the emotional devastation of having a boyfriend or husband who is struggling or who has struggled with porn. I mean, here's the thing. There has to be a heavy concentration on community when it comes to women, spouses that are dealing with this. Y'all need each other. So women, please get together. Men, if your spouse is, having, issues with pornography too, y'all need to get together and you really need to talk about the commonality of sorrow. So a lot of people will do this. A lot of people will act and say that we need to get over sorrow, or sorrow has an end, right? It's like, well, next week we'll be less sorrowful, or from a year from now we'll be sorrowful, or let's go to the convention or the conference and we'll get over sorrow. Sorrow is a part of our lives. It is something that we should deal with, and it's something that as an ongoing thing, we need to understand will be with us. I don't know if people get over this. It's like when a friend dies. I don't know if there's that magic time when everybody all of a sudden jumps up and says, I don't miss him anymore. Having a spouse who is into pornography is devastating, to say the least. But you recognizing that with your sorrow and coming to the table with a good friend, a confidant, a pastor, an accountability partner, a group of women is the thing to share your sorrow. To share your sorrow means you are giving it a path for hope and for strength. So again, I wish these answers were, I wish there was an answer that just said, hey, it's all going to be good in a week or a month. It's probably not. And what you really need to do is deal with the sorrow. Don't forget, Jesus, man of sorrow. He gets it. Is sorrow something that is sorrow something so devastating that you can't walk out of the house? Absolutely not. Again, it's going to build strength. It's going to build vulnerability and authenticity in your life in order to handle life's storms. So get together, become a group. If you know other women, talk about the sorrow. And then as you talk about the sorrow, I guarantee you will find freedom in numbers and strength in numbers as well. Another question that came in is, how do you as a spouse not allow the effects of pornography weigh into your emotional situation? And then how do you reclaim intimacy or even intimate contact with them on the other side of that conversation? Both of those questions are extremely difficult and need a heck of a lot of time, understanding, and conversation. The first part of it, how do you not allow yourself to be affected? again, I keep stressing this idea that the more you emote and communicate with another human being about your sorrow and about the things that are happening inside of you as a painful source, the better you will be. Because you're taking power away from anything that stops you from God. Remember, God wants us in community with one another. So if you've got a spouse and it's like, and the pornography issue is like leaking onto you or breathing onto you, I just want you to get up right now and make sure that you're talking to somebody other than your spouse about what's happening so you can have that ear to bend. And again, there's prayer, there's study, there are books out there written for spouses in that circumstance that you need to hunt down online. As far as the intimate contact goes with your spouse that's having issues with pornography, that's going to take a heck of a lot of time. And that should be waded through very slowly, and it should be a process that's communicated with your spouse, and you need to take one step at a time. Generally speaking, I have seen husbands and wives be able to come back together and have wonderful sexual lives with one another once the problem has been dealt with. And what does dealt with mean? It means that there is accountability that's set inside of the marriage, and it means that a spouse that has been dealing with their husband or wife dealing with it also is getting help. You know, it's not just as easy as like, oh, my husband stops and now we're all happy, because in some terms and in some cases, both spouses who, remember, to become one, have to understand the effects of all this, because a wife who generally has a husband that has a pornography issue is gonna feel absolutely deflated and absolutely like she's been, like her worth has been punched around the world a couple times. So husbands, if you've got the porn issue and you're dealing with it, you need to be a little bit more able to listen to your wives. And wives, you've got to be in a position to really make sure you emote what's happening. But again, the intimate connection back into that healthy sexual relationship or back into a sexual relationship is going to take some time, and it's going to take some real careful, intimate steps with one another, like hand holding or hugging or just the easy things that would get you more into a situation where sex can occur that doesn't seem so forced or pushed. So good luck with that. But again, there's plenty of books for spouses when it comes to like really how to handle that. And there's also groups. I guarantee you there's groups locally, if not regionally, where other wives and other spouses are meeting on those damaging effects inside of a relationship. So good luck with that. Okay, so another great question has to deal with the confines of trust in a relationship. And the question basically is, I know my spouse has these images in his head that are working like a movie, and I find it hard then to trust him and things that are going on, and my senses of forgiveness are also at play. So number one, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel the feelings that you are feeling, because there is a sense of betrayal that has happened, and there's no doubt. So yeah, right away that would spark anger and forgiveness issues and trust issues, like absolutely 100%. So again, we have to have some common sense. Spiritual common sense says, when these things happen to a person, I'm gonna be angry, I'm gonna have a hard time trusting, and I'm gonna have a hard time forgiving. So all those processes need to kind of line up. And how do they line up? Number one, you need accountability with how you're feeling with somebody else. I recommend this. If you're the spouse of somebody who's having porn issues, I want you to make sure that you are having accountability with somebody who can understand what trust is, what forgiveness is, and then all the ideas of intimate connection that come out of those. Because if you're not talking to somebody about not trusting your spouse or not forgiving your spouse, you're gonna probably reflect the issues back to yourself. So get accountability for yourself. Number two, forgiveness will be an ongoing deal. Forgiveness is an ongoing deal, because I do agree. When you have a guy or a woman that's got porn floating through their mind and you are in it and you are like, is he thinking about it? Is she thinking about it right now? You know, what's happening? You need to remember one thing, that forgiveness is for the good of one. So if the two become one inside of our little deal with God and you reach out in forgiveness, basically what it means is this. It means that you're able to focus on going forward with your spouse intimately and in a way that says, I am having trouble with my trust and forgiveness issues. And you need to tell your spouse that. So when I was here, I actually met a couple that were very open about it, and she did say, yo, I have trouble with trust with him. And I said, how often do you tell him? And she kind of looked at me. And as she stared at me, I realized probably not very often. So I'm asking everybody to come to the table very real and very honestly. If you're having trust issues with your spouse, you need to say, I'm having trust issues with you, and you need to talk about it. And you need to get that out instead of sitting on it, let it fester and grow. If you let it fester and grow, you won't forgive. If you forgive, you're saying, I'm going to move on. And if you move on, you got a shot at hope and you got a shot at intimacy. So I'm with you. I feel you. Make sure you're in a position of vulnerability with your trust issues and your forgiveness issues. Don't make it one-sided. Don't just make the relationship about what he or she did only. Also bring it back into your arena too, and you'll forgive and trust a lot easier. Another question comes in from a younger female. Maybe you're a teenager, maybe you're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and it's hey, what advice do you have for us if we're struggling? So, hey, bottom line is men and women struggle, old, young, it doesn't matter. I mean, the average age of people hitting porn right now, female or male, is 12 years old. So we get it. Women tend to be wired just a little bit differently than men. Men tend to go all in on the image and the moving images, where women tend to go all in more with the thinking of the desire. So erotica is a big deal right now. That's the written form of like romance novels that have heavily, laden sexual talk in them. Here's what I tell the women. A big part of our society, unfortunately, is framing up women by their beauty, right? By their looks. So women, we understand that you're getting bombarded by all these images, and the world is like, yo, what you're really worth is the way you look, your appearance from top to bottom, right? And I know that young women struggle with this hardcore. Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat make it almost impossible for a young woman to not look and go, oh my gosh, I need to be X, Y, and Z more. And I'm telling you, you don't. Frame your worth for me with your mind, your heart, and your faith, right? That's where your worth is. Your worth is not your physical appearance. Yes, it's great to look good, okay? It's great to look good. It's great to have that look at me, I'm a shiny diamond. I got no problem with that. Here's the problem I have. I have the problem when the only thing that you're making your life about is that. And dudes do it too, frankly, but I know young ladies are bombarded with it even more. So, if you're struggling and you're a young lady, okay, what I need you to do is first make sure you're telling somebody that it's happening and that you are doing it. And the second thing is really understand that perhaps it might be the evaluation of your worth that's pushing you down the porn aisle. So really take a look at that and understand that. Number one, talk. Number two, really examine what you believe your worth is, because your worth should be your faith, your mind, and your faith. Okay, so the last question is probably one that no doubt I get asked church to church, community to community, and it has to do with masturbation, right? So right off the bat, it's a funny word, masturbation. It's funny, you got to admit it. But people are always like, right, wrong, what do I do with it? What do I not do with it? What's happening? So nobody talks about masturbation, and then those who say they don't do it are lying, right? That's the deal. So here's the way I want to prop masturbation. I really want, because I had a guy once come to me and said, I masturbate, but I don't think about anything. And that's crazy talk. I want you to understand that anytime you move in your essence, like your mind or your soul, away from God in self-gratification of any kind, it's not a great idea. Because again, I don't want people swimming in their own vortex, solely to themselves, siloed away from the world, right? No solo play in this life. This life is about community. This life is about togetherness. And masturbation is one of those things that we can easily slide in and make nothing about. It's all about ourselves and nothing else. And that self-gratification can definitely lead to places and things and situations in our mind and our souls that we don't want. So, with that said, without making a hard, fast theological rule on it, I'm tapping into your own heart and asking you what's going on with you when it comes to that subject matter, and where are you going in your mind and where are you going in your heart?